Friends, welcome to your own YouTube channel, Achievers Data Engineering. My name is Gyanendra and this is part 5 of Azure Data Learning Series. If you are following along with my tutorial series, then you must know in our previous videos we talked about how to provision Azure Data Factory and how to set up your first pipeline. Along with that, we have also discussed some basic details about Azure Data Factory. So if you are watching this video for the first time, I would highly recommend please go ahead and watch the previous videos so that you can get idea what we are talking about in this video. So what we are going to do in this video, we are going to talk about the types of triggers in Azure Data Factory. So triggers are nothing but an events through which we can execute a pipeline. It could be based on an storage account activity, or maybe it could be based on some time window. There are multiple types of triggers based on the events or based on this category. All right, so let's get started. So based on current updates from Microsoft, there are four types of triggers available in Azure Data Factory. So first one is schedule trigger. So this is the basic trigger and the first one. So as it is sounds from its name, schedule trigger, this trigger invokes a pipeline based on a wall clock time. So maybe like if you want to execute a pipeline every day at the 5 p.m., then we can use a schedule trigger and that pipeline can be executed on a mentioned time every day. Maybe every day, maybe every week or every month or whatever frequency that we want to set up, we can go ahead and set up a frequency and this scheduled trigger will invoke that pipeline. So it's simply straightforward. We are just scheduling like an alarm. The another trigger is tumbling window trigger. This tumbling window trigger is a type of trigger that fires at a periodic time interval from a specified start time while retaining the state. So don't go in the like in the words, but it's nothing complicated. It works similarly like the schedule triggers. However, there are some advanced option given in this tumbling window trigger. We can go ahead and specify a start time, which could be a future time or which could be a past time as well. So that's the main difference between schedule trigger and tumbling window trigger. That in tumbling window trigger, we can schedule it for the past data or past time as well. So you must be thinking, why would we do that, right? So suppose we are working on a time specific data, right? We are working on a log where we are taking log on every hour, and now we are in a situation where we are migrating those logs based on their time. So we are migrating, for example, a batch of each hour's log and setting and migrating it in a different database, right? So in that situation, we can use this tumbling window trigger and it will execute that and pick up the data based on the time or based on the batch was specified in the data. So there are other n number of use of tumbling window trigger that we can talk in our upcoming videos when we will have a look in practical about this tumbling window trigger, right? So another one is storage account event trigger. So as it is sounds by its name, uh, whenever there is an event occurred in storage account. So for example, we have a pipeline where we are, let's take an example, we are like transferring or copying data from Azure Blob storage to Azure SQL storage, for example, as we did in our previous video, right? So we can go ahead and set up a trigger where whenever a file will be added in a blob storage account or maybe it will be deleted, then this pipeline will be triggered and it will be executed. So it works based on, we can go ahead and set up some event grids. So what are the Azure event grids? We will talk about in the upcoming videos, but uh, it works based on Azure event grids, which notice what is happening across the Azures, and whenever a file is added or deleted, it notifies the Azure Data Factory, and based on that trigger, we can go ahead and execute a pipeline. All right. So another one is custom window trigger, custom event trigger. So custom window trigger is a Data Factory native integration with Azure Event Grid and which is now covers custom topic, right? So over here it was not covering the custom topics, but now it's a recent trigger which is being introduced by Microsoft in Azure Data Factory, which is now covering the custom topics. Like, so what we can go ahead and before using this custom event trigger, we need to create these custom topics in Azure Event Grid, right? So to use the custom event trigger in Data Factory, you need to first set up the custom topic in Event Grid. So don't worry about the custom event grids. We will talk about that in the upcoming videos. So as of now, you must know that uh, this custom event trigger is nothing but wherever it will trigger based on any activity which we specify. So we will go ahead and create those topics in Azure Event Grid, and whenever that event will occur, this event like this trigger will again trigger, and based on the trigger we can go ahead and execute a pipeline. So all above, there are mainly four types of triggers now: scheduled triggers, tumbling window triggers, storage account triggers, and custom event triggers. So one thing that you should know that Azure Data Factory allows you to assign multiple triggers to execute a single pipeline. So maybe there are multiple events that based on which you want to execute a single pipeline. Maybe there are n number of events. So either if in case of either one is true, then you want to execute a pipeline, right? So in that situation, you can assign multiple triggers to execute a single pipeline. Or another situation is you can execute multiple pipelines using a single trigger. So there is also an option that you can use a single trigger based on a single event. You can execute multiple pipelines. However, there's an exception for tumbling window trigger because it does not support like many-to-many relationship. So with tumbling window trigger, you can execute only one pipeline. All right. However, what are the difference we are going to talk about in the like another videos? What are the different between these different type of triggers? All right. So let me take you to the Azure Data Factory and show you how does it look over there. So if you're following along with this video tutorial series, in our previous video, we use this copy data activity to transfer data from like from our Azure Blob storage to Azure SQL database. Now, if you click on trigger and click on add new, click on new, you can see here we can schedule these four types of trigger, either schedule trigger. If you will click on schedule trigger, then we have got limited options of giving an start time, start date, time zones, which is by default UTC. We can change it as per our choice. We can specify the recurrence like every 15 minutes or maybe like every 15 hours, days, weeks, or months, and so on. And also we can specify an end date, which is an optional. So if we will not specify, it will continue run based on the recurrence we have specified. All right. So another one is tumbling window trigger. So you can see here in tumbling window trigger, along with these common options, we are getting some advanced option. So over here we can specify the delay. So delay is nothing but, for example, we are executing uh, like we have a trigger which is triggered a pipeline at exact 1 p.m. However, we want a delay of 2 seconds so that we can execute a pipeline after 2 seconds of triggering, right? So there can be some exceptions where it is required, so we can specify that delay here. We can specify maximum concurrency. So concurrency means how many pipelines are running all together. So think of a situation where multiple pipelines are running and we based on this trigger. So we can define the concurrency so that it will limit and increase the performance. This retry policy count. So retry means, for example, we have executed a pipeline and it failed. However, it may be failed because the data was not available and there could be other reasons, and we want Data Factory to give it a try whenever it fails. So how many try it should do to execute a pipeline? We can mention that over here, like it should do one retry or two retry or whatever number of retries. Retry policy interval time in seconds. So here we can, specify the time after which it should retry. So for example, it has retried post a fail of a pipeline. So we can specify, okay, retry again after 1 minute and again after 1 minute. So this is something we can specify in tumbling window triggers. This option is not available in schedule trigger. Also in tumbling window trigger, we can add some dependencies. So what are the dependencies we will talk about in details in our upcoming videos. So let's move to the storage event trigger. So a storage event trigger, we can specify, our storage account. So for example, we have a blob storage and we can specify the container name. And based on the settings, we can like go ahead and decide whenever a file is added or deleted, there would be some certain activity is performed and the storage account, this event will be triggered. Now you should know that this event-based storage event-based trigger works with both Azure Blob Storage and it also works with Azure Data Lake Storage. Now, fourth one is nothing but custom event trigger. As we said, it supports based on like Azure event grids, and we need to cover that topic and create that. Then we can go ahead and use this. All right. So hope it has given you some idea what are the triggers and how to use them. And we will definitely go ahead and talk about these triggers in details and use them in our running and executing our pipeline. So if you have any question as of now, please do let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. Continue learning. Please hit and like, subscribe my channel to get up to date about any latest video which I upload. Thank you so much. Keep learning. Have a great day.